So we have learned how to create custom edge globals. In this lesson, we will keep going by looking at how to create custom edge tags. We know we can check whether or not a user is logged in inside a view using auth.isLoggedIn. Then inside the if tag, we can add whatever we want a logged in user to see. If you have been using AdonisJS prior to version 5, you would know we used to have a logged in tag, which is used to quickly check whether a user is logged in or not. So instead of doing this, we would do logged in, then end logged in. Of course, if we try to run this, we will get an error because the tag doesn't exist yet. So let's see how we can implement this in AdonisJS 5. Typically, tags are implemented inside the boot method of a service provider. And for this lesson, we'll be using the app provider. Using the view module, we can call a register tag method. Then inside the method, we will define the properties for the tag, such as the name of the tag, which will be logged in. Then we can define whether or not the tag is going to be block or inline using the block property. In our case, the tag is going to be block, so we set block to true. But if the tag that we are creating is an inline tag, we will set block to false. Also, we can define whether or not the tag will accept arguments using the seekable property. If the tag is going to accept arguments, we will set seekable to true, but if it's not going to accept arguments, we will set it to false. In our case, the logged in tag is not going to accept arguments, so I'm going to set seekable to false. Lastly, we will define a compile function, which will contain the logic of the tag. The function accepts 3 arguments. The first one is the edge parser, the second one is the edge buffer, then lastly we have the token or the tag token. So inside here we will have the logic of the tag, and in our case the logic for the tag is going to be basically an if statement that checks whether a user is logged in or not. So we need a way to write an if statement, which is where the buffer comes in. So using the buffer, we can write a statement, buffer.write statement. Buffer has different methods depending on what we want to do, but in this case we want to write a statement. Along the line, we will look at other buffer methods. The write statement method accepts 3 arguments. The first one is the text we want to write. In this case, we want to write an if statement. The first statement we want to write is the opening line of the if statement. That is if, then the condition, followed by an opening curly brace. So the condition here is going to be auth.isLoggedIn, just as we saw it earlier. But inside here, we don't have direct access to the auth object. So instead of doing auth.isLoggedIn, we're going to get it from the state, which is where the auth object actually exists. So state.auth.isLoggedIn. Also, for this to work, we need to change this to template literal, since this is going to be a variable. Then the second argument is going to be the file name we want to write the statement to. We can get the file name from the token, so token.filename. Then lastly, the line we want to write the statement on. Again, we can get it from the token.lock.start.line. Next, we are going to process the children of the tag. Remember I said this is going to be a block tag. So if you go back to the view, let's say we want to display a paragraph if a user is logged in. Yeah, this paragraph is the child of this tag. We can have other things or other tags as the case may be. So we are going to process whatever that is going to be embedded within the logged in tag. So token.children for each. Remember I said we can have one or more elements, so that is why we are using for each to loop through all of them. We will get each child, then using the parser we are going to pass each of them, process token, then we'll pass the child and the buffer. Then lastly we can close the if statement using the write statement. So buffer.write statement. We have the closing curly braces, then the file name will be token.filename. Lastly, the line number. In this case, we are going to use -1. So it will be indented with the opening curly brace. Now let's try it out. Behind the scenes, I have created some routes to help us with that. So I've created 2 additional routes. A login route to manually log a dummy user with the ID of 1 in, then and redirect to the home page. Then also a logout route that would log out the user and also redirect back to the home page. Let's save this and head over to the browser. We don't see anything because we are not logged in. Let's go back and modify this. Let's add an else statement. Again, let's refresh. Of course, we are not logged in, so we got the appropriate text. Let's try logging in by going to the login route. Now I get the appropriate message that I am logged in. And if I log out, now I am no longer logged in. We are able to perform an else statement here because the logged in tag is basically an if statement. So we are able to do the things we would normally do with conditionals, that is the if, else, else if, and the likes. Also, we don't need to explicitly define a corresponding closing tag. So instead of doing end logged in, we can simply just do end and it will still work. So that is how to create a custom edge tag. Before we wrap up this lesson, let's take a look at another example. There are times we would want to be able to pass arguments to our tags. For example, the if tag. The next example we're going to look at is building a custom tag that accepts arguments. For that, we'll be creating a script tag that can accept the path to the script as well as some other attributes. Let's start by seeing how we would want to use the tag. So we're going to create a script tag that will accept two arguments. The first one will be the path to the file. Okay, let's say app.js. Then an option which will contain some attributes we want to add to the script tag. Let's say we want to defer this particular script. So we'll set defer to true. Now let's see how to implement this. Again, we'll head over to the app provider. Again, inside the boot method, let's collapse this so we have some space. So view.register tag. The tag name will be script. Then block will be false because we are creating an inline tag. Then seekable will be true because we want the tag to accept arguments. Then we have the compile function. Before we do anything, let's check to be sure that at least a path is passed to the tag. So if not token.properties.js argument.trim. From tokens.property, we get the argument that is passed to the tag. Then we trim it of any leading or trailing spaces. So if no argument is passed, then we will throw an error, specifically an edge error. So throw new edge error. Let's import edge error from edge error. Import from edge dash error. So the message will be path is missing. The error code will be e_runtime_exception. Then we specify the correct file and line of the error that happened. The file name will be token.filename. The line will be token.log.start.line. Then the column will be token.log.start.col. Next, we will generate an abstract syntax tree using the parser. Parser.utils.generate AST. The first argument is going to be the argument that is passed to the tag, which is token.properties.jsarg. Then the second argument is the lexical location, token.lock. Then lastly, the file, token.filename. This will generate an Archon AST for a given JavaScript expression. In this case, the argument that is passed to the tag. Once the AST is generated, we need to transform the Archon AST to Edge AST. Again, we'll make use of a utility function on the parser. Parser.utils.transform AST. The first argument will be the Archon AST that was generated, which is this. So I'm going to grab this. Then the second argument will be the file name. So token.filename. Then the third argument is the parser. I'm going to save to reformat this. And let's save this inside a variable called passed. Next, let's restrict the arguments to only 2. So we are going to perform another check. If passed.expressions.length is greater than 2, then we'll throw an error. Let's grab this. This time the message is going to be, I will save to reformat. What we are doing here is that the arguments that are passed to the tag must not be more than 2. We expect at least an argument, which is what we checked for here, but we don't want the argument to be more than 2, which is what we are checking here. So at every usage of the script tag, we want at least a path to be passed. Then if need be, other attributes can be passed as the second option. Now we've done all the checking and all the passing. Now we need to make use of the arguments that are passed to the tag. But before we do that, we need to first stringify the arguments. First, let's extract the arguments from the expressions. Const path and options equals passed.expressions. Then const path expression parser.utils.stringify. Then we'll pass to it the path. Then we'll do the same thing for the options. Now, the expressions are in a state in which we can make use of them for what we intend. Before we write the script tag that would be outputted, we need a way to convert the options passed to the tag into a string of HTML attributes that we can use in the script tag. For that, we are going to install an npm package called stringify attributes. npm install stringify-attributes. Specifically, we will install version 2.0.0. Once installed, we are going to wrap it inside a macro, which we can easily use in our templates. So outside the compile function, we are going to define a boot function, which accepts the template. Then using the template, we can create a macro. The name of the macro will be stringify attributes. Then the implementation will be the stringify package we just installed. So let's pull it in. Import stringify attributes from stringify attributes. Then we can use it here. Now we need to write the actual script tag and output it. Again, we'll make use of buffer.output expression. Because we'll be working with expressions, that is why we are making use of output expression instead of output statement. The first argument is the expression we want to output. For the purpose of clarity, I'm going to save the output expression inside a variable const output equals, we have the script tag. The source will be the path expression. Then using the macro we created, we are going to convert the options to HTML attributes. So template.stringify attributes. Then we'll pass the options expression. We need to escape this. Then we can pass the output here. Then the file name will be token.filename. Then the start line will be token.lock.start.line. Then lastly, we will set template literal to false. Now let's test to make sure everything is working as expected. Let's save this and head over to the browser and refresh the page. Let's view the page source. We now have a script tag that points to the 5 parts we specified, and also the script is deferred because we set defer to true. If I remove this and just have the path and come here and refresh, we got an error. Cannot be properties of undefined. So this is the line that is erroring out, where we are trying to check if the length of the argument that is passed is not greater than 2. But since we only passed 1, which is why it is throwing up. So what we could do is wrap this inside an if check. So we are going to check to make sure that the passed argument is a sequence expression. What I mean by sequence expression is that, let's go back to the view. This is a sequence expression because it takes more than one argument. This is the first argument, then this is the second argument. So passed.type is equals to sequence. You know what? Before we perform the check, let's quickly log the pass there to see the structure. I'm going to return here to end the execution. Let's refresh this. So this is the abstract syntax tree that was generated. If we scroll up to the top, the node, which is the top tree, we see that the type is of sequence expression. If we pass just one argument to this and save and refresh, now the type is of literal. So I hope this makes things a little bit clearer. Based on that, we are going to refactor the code so we can accommodate for both scenarios, that is when just one argument is passed and when both arguments are passed to the tag. So we will check if the passed type is not equals to a sequence expression. We will define the output inside the if statement. Let's define this outside. Then we can get rid of this since a second argument is not passed at this point. And instead of path expression, this will be parser.utils.stringify. Then we'll pass passed. Else, that is, the type is a sequence expression. We will have this. So let's go over it once again. If the passed argument is not a sequence expression, we will set the script tag to only contain the source, which is the path that is specified as the argument. Then we'll output it to the buffer. Otherwise, that is if the passed argument is a sequence expression, then we check to make sure that the length is not greater than 2. Then we'll stringify the path and the options. Then we'll output the string tag with the source to the path expression and stringify the options to HTML attributes. Then finally, we output it also with just one argument. Let's head over to the browser, refresh this. Let's view the page source. This is working as expected. The source is set to the path that is specified. If we head back and pass a second argument to it, then head back to the browser and refresh, this is also working. So we now have the source and the option we added as the second argument. So that is how to create custom edge tags in AdonisJS.